NFC is that tight, because it's not. I mean, the NFC East has been a total train wreck this year. I look at that division. Philly lose to the Giants yesterday. The Cowboys had a bye. The Washington football team fights back, but it doesn't win. That division is going to be a battle of attrition all year. And the team who walks away with that division title has got to feel a little bit embarrassed because they're going to have a losing record. And then you look at the other divisions. The Packers win yesterday, probably the favorite in their division. But there's not the fight amongst winning teams in the NFC like there is in the AFC. Let's look at at Murray's numbers yesterday. Wow. He had 22 completions, 245 yards. He had a passing touchdown. He had 11 rushing attempts for 61 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Kyler Murray scored 33 fantasy points in my league yesterday. I know it all too well because my opponent I was playing has him on his team. Meanwhile, I have Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson had the worst game of his year yesterday. No doubt about it. He was awful. He was 22 for 248 yards, but he had 2 interceptions, 8 rushes for 60 yards. He lost a fumble. He only scored 14 fantasy points. Russell, wake up. Come on. Thursday night, we're going to see the Seahawks and the Cardinals, and that should be a barn burner. I mean, I'm looking for a lot of points. I'm looking for a similar game to what I saw yesterday between the Cardinals and the Bills. It ought to be a good one, really, Thursday night. Can't wait. Let's talk about a few players from yesterday. I'll give you a question. Question of the day. You ready? Based on yesterday's performances, which one of these wide receivers would you be most likely to add this week in fantasy football? And I'm going to give you 5 players to consider. And I'm not really, I'll take a position at some point, but I'm mainly bringing these up to see what you guys think as you're thinking about if you're thinking about adding any wide receivers this week. So, what about Keelan Cole for the Jaguars, who scored over 23 fantasy points this week? Keelan Cole had 5 catches for 47 yards. He had a receiving touchdown, and he had a touchdown return on a punt. Looked really good. Jakeem Grant. There's number 2. Okay? Jakeem Grant, Miami Dolphin wide receiver, in case you don't know, caught 4 passes for 43 yards. He's the number 2 there behind Parker. And a touchdown yesterday for the Dolphins. Josh Reynolds, who I guess would be considered the 3rd receiver in that Ram offense. But yesterday he got 10 targets. And he had 8 catches for 94 yards. Here's a guy that really came on yesterday for the Green Bay Packers, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And now, MVS is a player that has had a lot of hype and not always a lot of performance. And the Packers are so needing a second receiver they can count on. Lazard coming back from core injury. The hope is, I guess, that he could well be that second receiver. But yesterday, MVS for Green Bay had 6 targets, 4 catches, 149 yards, and a touchdown, and 24 fantasy points in my league yesterday. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Now, finally, what about the performance we saw on Thursday night? A lot of times we tend to forget the players we see on Thursday. But there was a wide receiver for the Colts, Michael Pittman, who is a rookie, who had a rush for 21 yards. He had 8 targets. He had 7 catches, and he had 101 receiving yards. Now, he played 87% of the snaps the week before, and this past Thursday night, he was an every down wideout. And I see him as an every down wideout moving forward. So though he didn't get the touchdown, he did get the 100 yards receiving. And I like Michael Pittman Jr. moving forward probably better than any of the other 4. Now, all 5 of these receivers have some upside. I think if I had to rank the 4. I've got to go with first, Pittman. Second, I'm going to go, here you go, little thing here. I'm going to go with Jakeem Grant of Miami. It looked like Tua has something going on with him watching the game yesterday. I make him my second in this group to target. Third, I take Scantling for Green Bay on a good team with a great quarterback, and he's earning the trust. We use that term a lot, probably too much, but he's earning the trust of Rodgers there in Green Bay. I like Josh Reynolds better than Keelan Cole. Go back to being on a winning team, and it looks like he's becoming part of that offense. Goff went to him a whole lot yesterday, and then Keelan Cole, touchdown dependent in my opinion, and that's okay. I mean, but at the same time, the Jaguars are not going to be, in my opinion, a really high octane offense kind of team scoring lots of points. So I'd have to take Cole, although he scored 23 yesterday, 5th on that list. So there's my rankings of 5 wide receivers to look for this week in fantasy. Let's go through those again. Michael Pittman Jr., Jakeem Grant, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, MVS, Josh Reynolds, and Keelan Cole. It's great to be with you this morning. I'm enjoying this, talking about some football. My shows aren't as long talking about football, I guess because I'm looking at players for fantasy football teams, fantasy football teams. I like to look at it from a position standpoint. Tomorrow, we might talk about running backs a little bit because the Dolphins had a running back yesterday who came on, and I want to talk about those tomorrow. But hope everybody has a great day. Remember, there's a Monday Night Football tonight, the Vikings and the Bears. That ought to be a classic. Knock them, drag out, fight them out. The Bears with that great run defense. The Vikings who love to run the ball. And here's a little stat for you before I leave. The quarterback for Minnesota, Kirky Cousins. Does anyone know his record on Monday Night Football? Anyone? His record on Monday Night Football is, you ready? 0-9. That's right. 0-9 is his record on Monday Night Football. So, will he go 0-10 or will he break the streak tonight for the Vikings? We shall see. Everyone have a great day. I'll be back with you tomorrow right here on Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports.